views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Welcome to my show. Today's guest, a very special one, is Tom Brejcha, and he's the head of the Thomas More Society, and we have some questions for you.
Oh boy.
Well, we won't put you on the spot or anything.
All right.
Okay, this society, who was the main person who started it?
Well, I started it. I was defending an activist on the abortion issue, pro-life activist Joseph Scheidler, whose family came from Western Indiana, and he taught at schools in Chicago. He was a marketing public relations type, and he was so shocked by Roe versus Wade, the case that made abortion a national reality in America, that he decided to dedicate his life to countering it. And he used his marketing skills, and he used them so well, he was sued by the National Organization for Women, NOW, and the abortion industry, and under the antitrust laws. Strange claim. And I had an antitrust case in the Supreme Court. Somebody asked me if I'd help him, and I did. And I got out in front of the case, and before I knew it, I was his lead lawyer in court, and it went on for 28 years.
That's a long time.
My law firm, after 11 years, very generous of them to let me do it that long, said, you know, this is not paying your way, and maybe you ought to, and a trial was coming up. So I was out of the law firm and on the street, and we had a donated office and started up a nonprofit charity law firm. And that was what, 1997.
Oh,
So we've been in existence ever since. I'm now an older fellow, and this was pretty much the domination of my professional life.
why was it called Thomas More Society?
Well, Thomas More was a saint for Catholic lawyers. He was venerated as a the patron saint of the legal profession and the political world, because he stood up for a principle to Henry VIII, who
Oh, him. Yes.
you know, and gave up his life for that principle. So that was kind of commitment that appealed
Sir
to.
Thomas More.
Yes.
I'm from
Well,
Cat.
I don't know if I'm Thomas More, but that was the inspiration, you know, and we've carried on ever since. We're much more open-minded than he was, but of course that was too many years ago. So
Yeah, many moons ago.
yeah,
The head of this society, what are your duties?
I'm sorry, Patty.
What are your duties?
Well, my duties. Well, I'm at age 77. I'm kind of the senior partner now. We have got 30, 40, 50 lawyers around the country that work with us on cases from coast to coast. And I kind of pontificate, I guess. I help with cases and make suggestions and recruit new lawyers and promote what we do.
Are you just in the United States or around the world?
Well, we're pretty much in the U.S. because, you know, it's the American legal system. We do have cases in Canada. I've been to Ireland to help them, you know, try and keep it pro-life. That they didn't succeed, but mostly we have plenty of work to do. We've got a good 180, 200 cases in the United States, and keeps us pretty busy at all levels of the federal and state court systems.
Do you go head to head with George Soros?
George, I didn't catch the last name.
George Soros. He's one of the wealthy men trying to get Ireland.
Oh, Soros. Oh, boy. Well, I guess we do. He's not a legal activist that I know of, but he's behind a lot of lawyers and finances them and movements. And yes, we're head to head with them all over the board. Lately, not only for protesters and First Amendment cases, but also in election integrity cases. So we're very, very active, very busy on a whole front. It's a
And
war.
your main mission? I'm sorry.
Well, our main mission is religious liberty, but as the last election showed, those who stood up for religious liberty found themselves on the outs. The Zuckerberg group put 200, 300, 400. Now we're finding out maybe $500,000 billion
Wow.
into getting out the votes against religious people. And so that's another issue for us now.
Since the late 1990s, there's a situation that's going around the United States, especially with abortion and that euthanasia. Is that getting worse?
Well, it's getting worse and it's getting better at the same time. The other side is making headway to the extent that they're imposing their will on people of faith, pro-life people. These shutdown mandates for the churches are really unprecedented. And at the same time, we've stood up for the churches. We opened up both New York, we opened up California. We've had some really marvelous clients, men and women of the cloth, who stood up and opposed these regimes, and we prevailed for them. But I tell people sometimes you have to be willing to lose a battle
To win a war.
Yeah, a war, and win the war. And the Schuyler case that got us going is a wonderful example of that. We won, but then we lost in the Supreme Court 9-0.
Wow.
Guess what? We hung in there. It was a pilgrimage through the valley of the shadow of death, I call it. The Clinton years. We lost a big trial. We lost on appeal, but guess what? The Supreme Court took it again, and we won 8-1. They went back down, and they warned us. The lower court actually did try to overturn the Supreme Court on the gambit. They wouldn't take the same case a third time. Well, they lost the gambit. They took it a third time. We won unanimously. Now, that's a great example and lesson to Christians everywhere. Don't give up. Don't give up the ship. And hang in there if you can do it by any means, and that's where faith really comes through. Faith and hope, and charity is in there too. But without charity, of course, we couldn't do what we do. So
that's true. The Lord Himself is with us.
You got it.
With this Planned Parenthood.
Well, Planned Parenthood is our main adversary these days, and they're going after David Leiden, who exposed them for what they are, trading in human body parts of aborted babies. And
Planned Parenthood is throwing the book at David here because, frankly, he's caught them in criminal activity of an unbelievable nature, and to the extent even of infanticide. The evidence was adduced in the preliminary hearing in the criminal case. It should prevail to get these charges knocked out because his efforts really amount to a defense against these charges. We hope the judge will see it that way. If not, we're going to keep fighting on. And we think eventually, if not tomorrow, we're going to prevail here.
Well, and some of that evidence that came out, I mean, David, you yourself, I think, there was new material for you even during this criminal preliminary hearing. Why don't you maybe give us a little kind of a flavor of what you saw from that hearing?
Sure. Well, so we first of all, we played some of the undercover footage that has never been released before in the preliminary hearing. It's very ironic that the Attorney General's office is prosecuting me using multiple sets of undercover footage, including undercover footage that has been enjoined by the civil district court in the federal civil courts in San Francisco. And so the Attorney General's office has been free to use a body of footage that I myself am not free to use apparently right now in general, for general public consumption. But some of that was liberated through the course of the preliminary hearing, and so there were some very damning and incriminating admissions that came out from that you can see in the transcripts from the prelim when those are released. We heard sworn testimony from folks like the CEO of the company STEM Express, one of Planned Parenthood's major business partners for the harvesting and sale of baby body parts, testifying under oath that STEM Express traffics in intact children procured from abortions all in one piece, which presumably would be a born-alive infant. And we also heard expert testimony from Dr. Forrest Smith, who is actually still a pro-choice, semi-retired abortion provider who testified under oath that Planned Parenthood's protocols for their second trimester abortions virtually guarantee that they are delivering infants alive who are then either being allowed to die or being killed through organ harvesting in their clinics. We heard from Dr. Teresa Deischer that in fact is necessary in order to provide the kind of high quality, fresh body parts with viable stem cells in them that would be most valuable for experimentation. So that's just a little bit of a flavor of the kind of facts about the violent criminality that is inside the business of harvesting and selling aborted baby body parts that was put on the record and that came out at the prelim.
Wow.
Now, the transcript of that prelim has been suppressed. From what David just said, you could see this is explosive material that the public has every need to know. Law enforcement needs to hear this too. The idea that this is suppressed is alien to our legal traditions and to our law, and this has to be stopped. This is one of the many battles that we're fighting in these complicated cases. So,
well, and that's been an underlying theme of all of our lawsuits is the other side trying to desperately to sue, but then keep all of the evidence out of the public eye, keep everything suppressed, because heaven forbid either the jury or the public get to see what Planned Parenthood was actually doing, what was exposed in part and now could be exposed in full through these legal proceedings.
and that's our best defense, and it's the right of the people to hear what people like David and his helpers have to say. What they've found must be made public. This is what the First Amendment to the Constitution is all about. That's our major defense. It was totally suppressed in the civil case that just went to the jury and ended up in a bad verdict here. So you see, that's what we're really arguing about, is protection of the people's right to know. And believe me, these facts need to be known and acted on for the sake of our civilization.
You know, they're a fearsome opponent, as was NOW 20, 30 years ago.
Are they still around, NOW?
They're still around. They're not as much a factor as they used to be. And maybe we had something to do with that. They were embarrassed by their losses in the Supreme Court. You know, there's a lot of deviltry on the other side of this, no matter what the name of it. George Soros, NOW, Planned Parenthood. We're willing to get into the battle with whomsoever, and plenty of opportunities to.
Well, Satan, We're the ones that are really against him, but the Lord himself, he can help us win over that.
Well, it's a tough battle, but there are so many wonderful people around who are willing and able to fight it. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with them and with you. So thank you. You're helping us by putting out our story. And it's not our story, it's the story of the people we represent. And they will prevail.
I thought there was a law against murder. Why is Planned Parenthood allowed to be murdering our own
Well,
baby?
they get the press behind them, don't Patty? And we've got to just bust through it. My Jewish friends don't like us to compare it to the Holocaust, but I insist that we must, because
Silent
there's so many good
Holocaust.
people. Yeah, so many good people in Germany, and what happened? Well, what happened then is what's happening now in our country, in my humble opinion. The media simply deny and ignore the reality, grim as it is. And we don't want to be the bearers of bad news all the time, but people must be aware of these awful things going on. Our client, David DeLayden,
Yes,
is
David.
so effective as a young communicator and letting people know. Most recently, finding out that they're using babies' bodies and parts thereof with animals for research. It's just horrible things. And people would say, well, we didn't know. Well, we want to make sure they do know. We've got to get the truth out. It's got to be stopped. And
So they're after David, right?
I'm sorry?
Planned Parenthood and the like are after David.
Yes. Well, not only Planned Parenthood, but the abortion industry trade group, the National Abortion Federation, NAF. They both filed separate civil lawsuits. They used the racketeering law, the law that we fought and beat down in the Schuyler case. And you talk about murder. I remember when we first got into the Schuyler case, I said, racketeering. Well, what do they do? Well, they kill for hire. These are people who take human life and they do it to make a profit. And we still
That's
have
it.
them with us, don't we, in the abortion industry?
Money. That's what it is, basically.
Got to be stopped.
I mean, they remind me of the medieval days, the Dark Ages.
These are evil days, and we're living through them. We just have to come to terms with that and then do something about it.
Yes, we are God's instruments to work against the evil that's on this planet.
Absolutely. And so, you say, are we winning or are we losing? Well, we have to fight. That's number one. And we can't be afraid to lose a battle here or there. And, with God's grace, we're able to take appeals. And, a lot of people have different views about our past president, but he put some good good judges on the bench. Let's put it that way. And so, yes, we've lost some bad cases for David Leiden. It's tough sledding out in California. Not a very religious place these days, although there's some great pastors out there of all Christian faiths. But we're going to take appeals, and we've got some people up in the U.S. Supreme Court now that I hope will hear our appeal if we can't get it heard in the lower intermediate court. So we're not giving up on any of these battles. So I was just out for a a banquet for a group led by Kathy Hamburger from Fort Wayne. Some wonderful people there. You had a great attorney general who unfortunately ran into some trouble, a little political opposition down in Indianapolis. Curtis Hill, I think his name. And so we've helped fight battles in Indiana. And of course, I went to school at Notre Dame. I'm not sure where Notre Dame stands these days. We've got to straighten them out a little bit, and other Christian institutions that have gone off the beaten path. But we're going to do that. We're going to prevail ultimately. I have no doubt about that.
There are some pastors and priests who believe in abortion. How do you get through to them? Can we?
It's a tough challenge to get through to them, but we're going to keep at it. In our appeal, back in the Schuyler case, back in the late 20th century and the beginning of this century, we had a lot of support from people who were activists for other causes, including animal rights, death penalty, but they supported, I think, our right to protest, but we had trouble sometimes getting through to them on the abortion issue itself. We need to reach out to these other folks and get them to at least pay some attention to what we're talking about when we say that every baby is entitled, has a precious sacred right to life. They talk about animals, they talk about the environment, and sometimes they forget, or they talk about social justice, and yet they forget that the baby in the womb is as much a human being as you or I or someone on a deathbed who's still breathing. And
From conception up to natural death.
exactly.
And only the Lord Himself can take our lives away, not any other human.
Well, that's right. And we got to fight and do so ferociously and not give up. I hope, we can't take every case, but we do try and do what we can do, including in court, for all the people that come to us with these issues. And it takes a broad-based, intensive effort by able lawyers. I don't want to sound here like we're bragging at all. I mean, but we want the best lawyers to work on these issues because these are the most important issues.
Yes.
We've been blessed to have the benefit of a lot of people that were law clerks for Supreme Court justices, but every lawyer, including a beginning lawyer, ought to sink his or her teeth into these issues, and to the extent they're able, to fight for them. These are the great issues of our time. And it's been a privilege and honor to fight these battles personally, but I want to help other lawyers get into it too. So we really just scratched the surface. I think this battle is going to broaden and include lawyers, I hope, in every state in the country.
This pandemic.
It's a pandemic of evil. We've got to fight it case by case and not give up. So anyway.
How can my audience help Thomas More Society, basically yourself being the head honcho? How can we help you, my audience?
You can help us. Number one, prayer. It's a spiritual battle. I have so many stories I could tell that have a spiritual dimension to them. Women coming to terms with pregnancy and going toward the killing center and encountering sidewalk counselors. So we want people to be active, not to be afraid to shrink back from confronting this evil at the killing centers. We represent a lot of folks who do sidewalk counseling and support these groups. We need prayer, all kinds of prayer, private prayer, prayer in religious settings. And of course, we need funding. We like to support lawyers. From my own experience, as I say, I worked at a business law firm, and this abortion case took over my practice. So the law firm couldn't support it, and they did for more than they probably should have from a business standpoint. But then we had to become a charity. So we're looking for financial support. Anybody who can help us, we would appreciated. There's a donation means at our website, Thomas More, MORE, society.org. But it's a rewarding fight. We can't, some lawyers make an enormous amount of money fighting business cases. We get enough support to support ourselves and our families. But I want to use the funds that come to us to enlarge our army of Christian soldiers. And, as I say, we've got 30, 40, 50 lawyers working with us. Well, it ought to be 1,000.
May there be more?
It's got to be more. And
What
we
would you
want
like?
to practice this at a high level of
Mhm.
intensity and not back off, but go hard and fight all the way. And, think of the Scheider case where we won initially, then we lost on appeal. We lost badly in the Supreme Court, but my God, we got back there twice and turned it around. Not to give up. And ultimately, God is with us. The truth will come, and it's redemptive, and it's insistent, and we've got the Creator behind us.
More
Life
power
is
to it.
precious, and we can't back off in the slightest. So anyway,
I'd like to bless you.
well, thank you so much. Your blessing is welcome and appreciated. And there's a great blessing in doing this work. So we're pleased, thrilled, inspired to keep doing it. And my job lately is to get more, the next 2 generations of lawyers committed and enabled to do this work, which will continue. And Roe v. Wade is on its last legs, I hope.
Thank God.
The battle won't be over. It'll just go to the states, I think, if Roe is reversed. Thank God for Indiana, and thank God for Missouri and a lot of the states where life seems to be in the majority, but there's a tough bunch
fight.
of evildoers that we've got to suppress, even where you are. And my God, they've got control of Illinois, they've got control of New York, they've got control of California, and we're not giving up there either. We're going to fight that battle until we turn it around.
We have Planned Parenthood here in Fort Wayne, and we're doing 40 Days for Life in September to October. 40 days. So I'm a prayer warrior for a sidewalk counselor myself.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
So-
the sidewalk counselors need all the help they can get. It's a spiritual battle to deal with mothers about to have their children
Killed.
killed. I mean, it's just to say that is
Sad.
blood curdling. Think about it.
Yeah. I'd like to thank you for being on my show, Thomas.
Well, Patty, thank you very much for the invitation.
And do come to Fort Wayne. We'd like to see you again.
Well, we were in Napanee, down the road from Fort Wayne, but next time we'll come on up to Fort Wayne.
Well, I hope to meet you again, sir. This time in the studio.
All right. Well, take care. Take care.
Okay. God bless you, sir, and may the Lord be with you always.
And you too. Keep up the great work.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above.